Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Finextra Tech Uncovered. Today I'm joined by Tilen, Solutions Architect from 10x. How are you doing, Tilen? How's you?
Yeah, doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff. Tilen, before we get going, just give the viewers a quick introduction or background of yourself, your role at 10x. That'd be great.
Yeah, no problem, of course. So my name is Tilen. I am the head of solution architecture at 10x. And effectively what me and my team do, and I'll talk about this more over the course of the session, is effectively work very closely with our clients, which are typically big financial institutions and our banks globally, and work with them and our partners and our internal teams to effectively build out the end-to-end solution for what a bank would be using our product at the core of it. So that's effectively where we started. I think the team and myself come from quite a diverse background. I'm kind of an engineering background, went to school for computer science and all that stuff. Worked some engineering jobs and ultimately ended up in tech consultancies, effectively all over Europe and some other parts of the world. And then eventually moved over here to London, where now I'm kind of have a very big interest in kind of helping out the financial industry as well, evolve and ultimately transform over time, hopefully with the help of what we're building together here.
So 10x is a kind of a core banking platform, right? But you said that you guys put together solutions around that. So to talk us through a little bit about the 10x approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. So 10x at its core is effectively a next generation modern cloud native core banking platform. So we've set out to effectively try to build what we like to call is the banking operating system of the future, where every financial institutions, banks, and other types could take our product at its core and create an entire ecosystem or entire bank around it. We don't solve for everything. Part of what we set out to do is we cannot be good at everything. We'll be really good at the core. So things like talking about keeping a real-time ledger, being able to do real-time interest calculation, fees, loans, et cetera. Having that in the core, that is effectively what we like to think of as a commodity item that is applicable for everyone globally. It'll be different here and there a little bit, but ultimately, fundamentally, is the same. And then making it super easy to build an ecosystem of both partners and your own technology around that to create that end product. So what we found is that a lot of the older solutions try to do everything at the same time and usually very poorly and hard to evolve. And instead, we try to kind of modernize it a bit by using modern technology, but also to change how banks build themselves in a way that they can both do something quickly, but also evolve over the next 5, 15, 20 years without being stuck in a particular direction or feature. So, we of course build our own product, but part of, let's say, my job and part of what we do in general is that we also work very closely with our clients, in many cases in a partnership type model that allows us to kind of help them build their next generation bank, not only us, but everything around it, which partners they choose for different things, like KYC as an example, all the way down to what kind of technology they use to build out their front ends, their integrations and things like that, basically guiding them through the entire journey of from zero all the way to a completely transformed bank.
Yeah. So right at the start of it, you just mentioned cloud native, right? So I think a lot of people understand what the cloud is, but when we use terms like cloud native, I think some people just think, you just put a core banking system in the cloud. What do you guys mean at 10x when you actually say that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. The cloud, as the word has, let's just say it means a lot of things to a lot of people. What a lot of the vendors, especially more traditional ones, have done is effectively, instead of having it on a computer in a data center, we put it on a computer on Amazon or on Azure or what have you. That's not what we do. We don't, and I personally don't consider that to be cloud. That's just a lift and shift of running it somewhere else that typically you don't really realize any of the benefits. Instead, what we try to do is build it fully cloud native. And what I mean by fully cloud native is we've started from scratch using cloud native technologies that effectively make the modern cloud. So this is less lifting and shifting like a virtual machine or a physical hardware from here to here, but actually utilizing all of these modern tools and technologies that Amazon and the wider cloud ecosystem is building, such as we will use various things will work in like a serverless manner. We use managed services where we can, meaning that we, much like we'd like our clients to offload their commodity banking to us, we offload most of the commodity computing to our cloud provider. And we basically fully utilize all the tools from the ground up that make Amazon or Azure or whatever cloud you pick ultimately the attractive offer it is. So we can actually leverage what they're promising, such as high reliability, everything real time, high performance, high scalability, elasticity. Those are all the things that work once you kind of embrace the ecosystem and embrace the technologies that kind of make it a cloud. And I've used a couple of examples of those, but that's what we mean. Like we haven't built it in a way where we have one box that we just deploy it. We fully embraced a microservice-based architecture, a fully managed solution, serverless in many cases, where we can focus on business logic that make our product, and let the cloud take care of running it and scaling it and making it performant and reliable for all our clients and across the world, effectively.
And I think a lot of people, I think financial services just got to terms with cloud, starting to get to terms with cloud native, maybe, let's say. A lot of people understand the concept of microservices now. I think that's quite a common terminology that we hear in financial services. But you've dropped the word serverless a couple of times, and it'd be really interesting to see what benefits do you see of serverless over trying to run the infrastructure yourselves, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's effectively, the way I would phrase it is that it overall likely doesn't reduce the amount of time and effort you spend on your technology, but allows you to focus on the things that are more important to you. We talk constantly with banks or clients, and they have mainframes and older systems and things like that. And it's staggering how much money, how much time they spend on just keeping it alive, keeping it up to date, and making it not fall over, so to speak. And kind of what we think like embracing serverless allows us to do is to kind of offload those concerns to a cloud provider. And if you really embrace their ways of working, they will take care of a lot of this for you. So suddenly I don't have to worry about updating my OS because some vulnerability was found, and now I have a big panic and a big scramble and all that stuff. Or I don't have to worry about updating versions of various softwares and things like that. I can instead focus all that effort into writing the products, the code, the system that I want on the business logic that I want, and effectively do that much quicker in much smaller iteration, and allows me to build things in a more real-time way as well. So the biggest thing I would say is allows you to really focus on your business and what your business wants to achieve. So for example, for us, we really want to focus on building all the functionality of the bank we need in core banking, and we really have we don't want to spend really any effort managing a cluster of machines or a database.
Yeah.
I think this can proliferate through us, but through banks and financial services as well, and really allows them to refocus on that, on how they do and how quickly they can do things.
So, and listening to you speak there, it's really interesting because one of the things that we usually talk about is legacy systems and how inflexible that is. You talked about cloud native, we talked a little bit about serverless. I'm assuming that because you've embraced these new technologies, you've embraced the concept behind cloud, the model that is serverless, that's actually allowing you guys to also be a little bit more flexible when it comes to actually servicing the client. So as you said, if they want to bolt in some sort of KYC engine, you can do it in different ways because you've got technology that allows you to be a bit more plug and play and a bit more flexible, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing they do is it does embrace you. For example, if you talk about microservices architecture, we need to split the problem into smaller domains, which are then accessible through well-defined interfaces. An example is it actually forces you to model everything to be exposed through these well-defined interfaces and easy to integrate to another. And this is one of the other problems as well, where you have this big black box that will do something, and changing anything is really hard because you need to find where it is, and then changing it might have side effects that you don't know about. As you break down the problem, as the cloud native methodology tries to make you do, and you create these smaller interfaces around smaller components, it allows you to change things much quicker because you now only need to update a couple of things, or potentially one thing, and just update that one, and you know exactly what the inputs and outputs of that particular component are, which means that you know the effects, you know the side effects, and allows you to more safely and more confidently make changes as well. In addition to, of course, being more quick as well. And that is usually paired up with another term I use, of course, is continuous delivery, where you can continuously update the product and continuously make changes as you go, and like with zero downtime and things like that, which was harder to do before. Not impossible, of course, but harder to do before. And when you split it down into smaller problems, those smaller problems are just generally easier to manage across the board and easier to customize, and especially easier to plug in, because like cloud native will use standardized interfaces everywhere. So, REST APIs, GraphQL APIs are all the rage nowadays. Eventing, Kafka is what we use as an example, is again all the rage. It basically, through our experience, allowed anyone to plug anything into the platform, in our platform, or any cloud native platform, so to speak. Everything from very old mainframes. We've had examples with IBM mainframes, so 40 years ago, that talked to us just fine. Everything to the even newer stuff than we are building, and it all kind of makes it super easy to plug in and out. And that is a benefit that it's been hard to do in the past.
So microservices, obviously we always talk about breaking things down into small components. You mentioned kind of like well-defined domains. Do you guys actually use a domain-driven design or any concepts like that? Or
we do. We do. But we've approached it slightly differently. Usually in financial services, your domains are going to be aligned to your business units. So I think I have a current account unit that deals with current accounts, and I have a lending unit that deals with lending. We've tried to flip it on our side, our domain diamond. So instead of dealing with specific business verticals, we've created effectively horizontal-based domain logic. So we've kind of centralized everything into one place. So when I talk about an account, that account is one domain, but that domain can be everything from a current account to a loan to a savings account. And to us, a domain is a horizontal across the verticals. And that's what we then use to drive our technology and our kind of build behind it, and our features and functionalities, where we focus on this is our domain and we need to cover all the different bits, and ultimately use that to drive both our design internally and our product as well from that perspective. From experience, has been sometimes quite a mind bender for a lot of because everyone used to think in the silos, and what we do want to do is to be able to break those silos. So you don't need to be completely siloed off. You want to be able to share the data, to share the domain, and to share the models across everything. That's not to say everyone will do it that way. Some people still prefer it that way, but certainly is a more efficient way of kind of going about it, because then any new feature or change is applicable to everyone. And all the data is in the same place, modeled using the same domains effectively.
And I'm guessing actually, because you're working in that particular way, you're getting to reuse a lot of the components, right? So one service is being used multiple times, you update that and everybody gets the benefit, right?
Exactly. So we have a service that deals with, let's say with creating and managing accounts. And that service will have an account that could be a loan, it could be a savings, it could be a current account. It's all one service and it's all reusable across the board. So if I had a feature that I can do X with an account, it's applicable to everyone immediately. If I have a feature that has relations to accounts, suddenly it's applicable to all the silos that used to be completely separate, all using kind of the same model and the same interface at the end of the day. So it can become really powerful in trying to, a lot of times in financial services, when you get them, you feel like you have a couple of products with a bank, and you feel like you're the same customer 6 times, that they just don't know about you. So you're like copy pasted 6 times different system. You have to talk to different places, and that is what we try to help kind of our clients manage, is how can you bring that together, still have the autonomy you need on top to run your business. How can you bring it all to have a single view, a single model that is applicable to your entire business, that hopefully can make you more efficient and then do things quicker and better at the end of the day.
And do you guys use well-defined APIs, or do you kind of like say, okay, the APIs are there, but we like to use, as you said, some sort of event-driven architecture, event-driven orchestration?
It's kind of both a little bit. So we are event-based under the hood. We like to use event-based architecture quite a bit. So for that, internally we use Apache Kafka as our effectively main broker to do events. So we are event-driven in the sense that we will make sure that whatever change or any action that happens on our platform will produce an event in real time, meaning that you can easily subscribe to all of these events and be immediately notified of anything that happened, be it interest being calculated overnight, be it a transaction coming in or a new account being created, whatever you can think about event will be produced. But also we do realize that just purely event-driven can sometimes be difficult to work with. So we also have a full-blown API layer effectively. A combination of RESTful and GraphQL APIs that allow you to call certain things, creating an account, posting a transaction, closing an account instantly, and it be effectively in real time. It'll be actioned in real time, whilst also at the same time producing an event that it actually happened on the back end. The benefit of that is that you can interact with it in a real time manner completely, so you don't have to do asynchronous request response for everything. But it also means that because we create events for every single thing we do, all the data we have, it means that you can at the same time get all the data from the platform in real time, put it in a place, and then look at it and process it effectively immediately,
Yeah.
which opens up a whole new avenue of possibilities with regards to what you can do with it. Some of it could be real time, like decisioning or not decisioning. Otherwise, it could be real time analytics, real time projections, all those kinds of things, which were very difficult to do before.
Yeah, and I'm guessing when you're talking about events, you're talking about what we would call fat events, right? So they're really data heavy, data rich.
Data fan, effectively, we run, it's not quite, but it's effectively a CDC type pattern. What that means is a change data capture. Effectively, thing goes in the database and it goes out as an event, effectively as is. It's not quite, we do manage it to make sure it's stable and we don't break the format and all that stuff. But conceptually speaking, we effectively replicate our data immediately out so our clients can consume in real time to do what they please with, effectively.
And just going back to the API comment, right? I think a lot of people in financial services understand APIs to an extent, right? When I sat on panels and we talked about APIs and API adoption, it's usually given as examples of, oh, you can now integrate with these other applications. And what they miss is a lot of the benefits of basically how you architect a solution, but also how you run things like, as you said, a CI/CD pipeline, right? How do you bring in automated tests? Can you guys just share a little bit with how you're doing that? You're using APIs and you're using the APIs itself to be able to automate testing in a pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. Again, APIs is another word that's probably been overused significantly, but what it allows you, basically one of the best things it allows you to do is to have effectively, as it's the simplest way of being to access all the functionality that we offer or anyone offers if they use APIs in a programmatic way. I mean, that's how I like to think about it. A lot of times things are locked behind a UI, testing it was hard, demoing it was hard. But what an APIs will give you is the ability to effectively access every single thing we do programmatically, which is great because you can obviously do these things, but also testing becomes much easier. Like I'll give a couple of examples. We had several clients where they effectively created a test suite using our APIs that they ran using their logic that they run 20, 30, 50 times a day. Every time they make any single change, it'll effectively test the entire suite within minutes. And there is nothing that you can't do via APIs that you'll be able to do otherwise. So the whole thing is completely exposed, and that will ultimately make it very easy to do. The nice thing about it is because that allows you to move to this continuous integration and continuous deployment model where you can make any change really, and you can be safe to know that, well, after I make this change, I'm going to run tests of 100, 1,000 tests within a couple of minutes, and provided they all pass, it is very likely that everything is okay. And that goes both for our changes internally. If I make a change on how my the ledger processes a transaction and I run 2,000 tests automatically after I made the change, I can be pretty confident it's good. Same for the client. If they have an integration built into us, they can test integration end to end. And because events are coming on the back of that, you can even make it fully end to end by knowing I've done this. Also, I've received all the data I expect. So the thing is actually end to end working before any change actually gets deployed without anyone actually doing it manually.
Yeah.
That's not to say that everyone's done that so far. It is a barrier to move past for a lot of banks where they're used to having a lot of manual testing, hundreds of people clicking and things like that.
Change management. They love it. Change management.
Exactly. So it's not like we rock up to a place and they just do it immediately. We usually help them, as part of the team does as well, is help them through the journey of, maybe you start manually, but slowly but surely you start to automate things as you go, and kind of you can remove how much time is spent on change management and prepping everything for deployment. Well, if you just do 20 deployments a day, suddenly you can't do that anymore. So you need to find a better solution, and this hopefully helps everyone do it, basically.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot of positives around technology and how it's helping you. You hinted a little bit earlier on there that sometimes actually it can be a bit challenging in the mind to try and work in a particular way. Is there any things that you guys at 10x, and if you're allowed to share this, you've really hit not a barrier, but hit something it's taken a lot of mind power to get over that hurdle, right? To really think through a problem, and it hasn't been obvious that the technology can solve it in a particular way.
Yeah,
good question, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm trying to think about it, that we fit a problem. I think, let me just start talking through it and I'll probably come to one. So testing has definitely been one. I think one of the biggest problem is, almost all of our clients started with, I have 4 change windows over the course of a year, each quarter, and I have to hit it. And part of the reason is that's how they always work, but also the other reason is, well, the technology didn't allow them to do anything else. So that is, and I won't repeat that one too much, but that has definitely been one that some of our clients have taken very well to, and have reduced their time quite significantly, and are now doing automated deployments and things like that. Others less so. But ultimately, everyone's kind of going into that direction. The second one I would say is, it might seem obvious when you think about it, but just how much time, like a solution that is automated, how much time you save on not managing it. And again, you think about it, okay, of course it's obvious, right? But actually, people are still staggered that, oh, I don't have to spend 20 people doing this all the time and patching all the time. It just happens, basically. So now I have all these resources I can spend on, delivering more value, more business type work on. And I feel like that one has been probably the one that's the hardest to get over, because people are used to, what do you mean I don't have to deploy anything? But also once it unlocks, it creates a lot of possibilities from that perspective. And that'll go the same for like using our product or building your own services in the cloud. I think the kind of end result is the same. And the third one, I think, is some of it comes down to, I think, cost as well. Like, having the ability to do things quickly and cheaply now suddenly means that I can try more things, and potentially some of them will fail from like more of a business perspective or even technology perspective, and it not be the end of the world. There's this IT project that ends up in banks that take years to do necessarily sometimes, and they cost so much that they have to work. Otherwise, it's a big failure. What we found is that, like, actually, if you structure it slightly differently, if I just try 10 things and if 5 of them don't work in the market, I just remove them and I haven't really lost much. And I can do a lot more experimentation, a lot more figuring out what the market will bear, which again, for more modern companies might seem a bit obvious, but it has been a bit barrier for a lot of our clients to be able to kind of just figure out what their clients want and what works and what doesn't work. Probably the 3 main things. There's probably more, but
have you guys come up with so I mean, some of the problems that I've faced over the last probably 10 years, especially when we started talking about cloud, is that larger organizations and the people within them have become wed to a particular way of working, right?
yeah.
So when we talk about change management, they're wed to checking gates and understanding we're going to do a release once in a blue moon because releases are hard and they're fraught with risk and blah, blah, blah. Do you find the same problem when you start talking about things like serverless technology, cloud native, that people say, well, hold on, how do if Amazon or Microsoft Azure has made a change and they break the infrastructure, I'm accountable for it on my work, how do you get people over the line or educate them a bit more around that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think the problem is definitely there. I think that the deep ingrained, we've done it this way and this is how it was, and this is quite different. It has been a challenge in some cases to get through, and we had to take a lot of people on a journey. More security cyber teams are always an interesting one, where they were used to having all of this detailed control about everything, and suddenly they don't. It can be quite a barrier to pass. It's also like I won't say a mental thing, but like, in the old days, I can go and like hug my server and it'll be okay. Versus now,
Physically
it's
touch
just,
it.
I can physically touch it. I can physically like plug things in and out, and it's obviously a lot of time spent that, but it was like a feeling of I'm in control. Versus now, sometimes people feel like I'm no longer in control because it's, well, Amazon's doing its thing over there and Finextra are doing everything over there, and like I don't know what's going on. I think this is where that's definitely been a challenge. But I think this is where this is the journey we take our clients in, to try and say, well, look, that's okay. You don't actually need to spend your time. It's a solved problem in many cases. You don't have to spend your time doing it. And part of it is testing. Actually, the testing is the mechanism we use and everyone uses to give you comfort that the thing isn't breaking. Part of it is just references. Just look around, like everything is running on this, so it can't be that bad. And the analogy we like to use, because we like to say that 10x platform, we want to become like the commodity of banking, where we provide you a commodity, you do the differential on top of it. In fact, we try to like, look, you don't worry that your electricity is going to show up in your wires. Basically, you just trust that the power plant over there is going to work. And that's kind of what we try to. And it's not a perfect analogy, don't get me wrong, but like we try to do is like, look, these are the things that are now mature and a solved problem, and we have 20 ways of proving it to you by automated testing, by all of these controls that we demonstrate, and this is how we try to get people across. It's not easy, don't get me wrong, but you know, take small steps and try to do it in iteration, and people will slowly gain confidence over it. But you know, you need to start going on the journey.
And I'm assuming it's got a little bit easier in the last, let's say, 3 years. Something to do with working from home has obviously changed a lot of people's mindsets around virtualization.
Yeah, the other one that's interesting is less so in the UK necessarily, but globally is this idea of data sovereignty has always been quite important. And you know, while Amazon and Azure are in a lot of places, they're certainly not everywhere. And this is another one where it can be a challenge to adopt in the cloud if you don't have a region in your country or in your geography. And sometimes okay, we keep like either encrypted or keep like PII data outside. So we leave that potentially still on data center. So it's not always an everything all in or not all in. There are hybrid options there, specifically with regards to personal data, where it's not feasible to have everything in a cloud. And you know, APIs and events and all that stuff also allows you to do that if that is the most appropriate. So we've never done move everything from mainframe to the cloud or from old systems to the cloud immediately. It's always in iterations. We start reducing one and increasing the other as we go over time.
Yeah, just finally, because I'm just conscious of time here, actually.
Yeah.
You just mentioned about hybrid systems, but you know, the underlying infrastructure now between on-prem and places like Microsoft Azure and Amazon is significantly better, right? You can hook those things together to create a hybrid infrastructure, and you guys can probably do that quite quickly, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we've had this probably with every client so far, I'd reckon. Almost every big cloud solution will have this like high-speed links into the various exchanges that you can hook into the clouds. So usually latency and performance has never been an issue so far, so you can connect it, no problem. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, more modern pieces of software, APIs, they're accessible whether over the internet or over a private link to a data center. Either way, it works. And like I said, we've had everything from very old mainframes from COBOL, where you know they've created like COBOL programs to call our platform over JSON and REST, which is quite interesting to see, but it did work, and it worked quite well as well. So yeah, we typically do always advise to do it in chunks so people get used to it, but also so we don't take too much risk at the same time, because if you do everything big bang, it is a lot of risk that something will definitely almost certainly go wrong.
It's been great talking to you. I'm gonna have to wrap it up there, but just finally, is there anywhere where people can find you on like Twitter or social media, LinkedIn or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. It's at my first name, last name, so Tilen Faganel all together. But yeah, do reach out with any questions. I'm always happy to chat. It's certainly an exciting space to be in, and like being here for almost 5 years now at 10x. I've learned a lot, seen a lot, and there's going to be a lot more to see, not only in the UK, but like globally.
Exactly. Lovely. Well, nice talking to you, and thanks everybody for joining us. I look forward to another episode soon. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.